Hey, Foot Clan, you know you can get the UDK pre-ordered for the absolute lowest price of the season, but maybe you didn't know that we're running the ultimate fantasy footballers prize pack right now. If you pre-ordered before April 28th, you're automatically going to get entered into possibly winning one of those spots in the 2019 Listener League. Maybe you can win 2 customized jerseys from Fantasy Champs or get on board with a VIP tour experience. We're hitting the road again. You're going to win 2 tickets. You're going to get to ask a question, sit up front, hang out, shake our hands, kiss some babies, do all of that fun stuff. Head over to ultimatedraftkit.com and get yours pre-ordered before April 28th.
Hey, it's Ronald Jones II, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from pristineauction.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, Ronald. That intro, it was impressing the general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ronald Jones. Thanks for introing the show, Ronald.
Doing a lot of running.
Well, today's going to be a great episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. We already know that. Now, here's the thing, and Jason's putting his hate blockers back on.
I mean, if this is the Ronald Jones time.
I haven't seen those in quite some time.
What I love, what I'm going to love the most about today is going to be all of our discussions on Jameis Winston. That will be the greatest part. And a piece of that puzzle is Bruce Arians. Probably a huge piece based on Jason's rankings. And Ronald Jones plays for the very same Bruce Arians and the very same team that has said that he's the most impressive player so far.
Fantastic.
Now, we'll see. I mean, look, I that was in jest, right? Like,
yes.
Ronald Jones had an awful, awful season. But you hope, much like head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, Zach Taylor said today about John Ross, clean slate, fresh start, you hope that Ronald Jones gets that, having not been drafted by the same regime or the same head coach. So Ronald Jones, there was some hype train news yesterday just about how he's impressing coaches, and Jason has historically been a Ronald Jones hater.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to translate well to the NFL when he was one of the highest-ranked rookies last year. So far, so good, but it is too early. I mean, there was a time when we didn't like necessarily the early rookie and maybe even sophomore seasons from the likes of Devonta Freeman and Devonta Adams.
If you were Devonta,
but this one is not named Devonta.
Slow start, yeah.
This is Ronald.
We have the early quarterback ranking show today, part 2. If you can resist the urge, if you listen to us enough this offseason, we'll help you. But if you can resist the urge to draft one of the upper echelon quarterbacks and waste the draft pick really high in your draft, if you can resist that urge, these are the guys you're going to be deciding between. These are the guys you're going to be looking at getting value on in your fantasy draft.
I saw a comment, and this is a really common thought, a really common experience. I'm sure a lot of people listening or watching on YouTube have this exact same experience. They say this year I'm going to wait, and I'm going to draft my quarterback late. And every single year, round 6, 7, it just gets a little too. There's someone there that fell a little bit, and so they draft their quarterback in round 6, round 7 because they think they're getting great value, and they're like, no, this is the year I'm not going to do that. Don't do it.
See, here's the thing. When you're in the grocery store and you're walking down the cereal aisle,
I'm so scared right now.
To get to the back where the value is, where the bags are, you have to go past all the name brands. You got Honey Smacks, you got Fruit Loops, you got Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Lucky Charms.
They're looking you in the face, and there is the exact same thing.
This is the worst analogy you've ever given. What you're saying is
exact
draft
same thing.
early quarterbacks.
No,
You're telling the world you need an early quarterback because otherwise you're going to end up with the garbage version of Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah,
that doesn't
that's
taste
true.
right.
I get where you were going, Mike, but the truth is I don't buy those bags.
No, the truth is I don't buy the bags either. But the truth is I know what they taste like, and it's exactly the same as the other cereal, but the cartoon character on the box tricks me.
Let's leave the food takes to the fat guy, okay?
Okay. Listen, today's show, it's going to be a doozy. Jameis Winston, he will consume some of our time here very soon. A reminder, find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. The website's thefantasyfootballers.com. You heard it in the intro, but the NFL draft's a week away. And with the NFL draft comes the first access to dynasty and rookie rankings. Once the teams make their selections, our rookie rankings, they'll come out. They'll be part of the Ultimate Draft Kit. It's part of the early release. So if you get it, you get entered into that prize pack Mike talked about, but you also get the first access to dynasty and rookie rankings. That's ultimatedraftkit.com. You want to get it before April 28th to be entered to win. Don't forget to check us out on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate the reviews. Ad-free on Stitcher Premium, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen. Thanks for your support. Let's talk news.
News and notes from around the league. Presented by Sleeper.
All right, the Seahawks have signed Russell Wilson
Seattle.
Go Hawks!
to a 4-year, $140 million extension,
Hey, Seattle.
which was announced very
disturbingly
on Instagram. That would have been my quick question. How did that Instagram make you feel, Mike?
Oh, it still makes me feel gross.
Was it the voice? Was it his Bill Elliott impression? Was it
Shirtless nature?
Was it the three chains?
We do not have enough time in this show to break down that minute and a half video. I have gone full Zapruder film of this.
Are you coming out with a podcast to break down that?
I probably should. I could do an entire season on that video of why everything in it is just terrible. Unless you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, then I'd be very excited.
If you don't
that
know
Russell's there.
what we're talking about,
they know what we're talking about.
not everybody listening has seen or knows of. Russell Wilson comes out with this Instagram post at whatever in the night or morning o'clock, and he's
just stay away from
it. It was money o'clock.
It was money o'clock, and
Yeah.
he's laying in bed, shirtless, with Sierra and his chains on.
Oh,
and has
stop
the
bringing it
weirdest-
up.
The
Don't
weirdest,
walk through it.
The weirdest, hey.
There wasn't a care in that man's mind
No, he's good.
for the next
Ever.
Yeah, I mean,
Ever.
it doesn't matter if he's handicapping the franchise, but whatever. Look, highest paid player in football.
Go Hawks!
Demaryius Thomas, 1-year deal with the Patriots. Do we care, or do you need me to hit this button?
You care slightly
All
because
right.
it is the Patriots, but Demaryius Thomas has equal chance to me of being the wide receiver 2 on this team. He has an equal chance to be cut this offseason.
A la Eric Decker.
But
Yes.
isn't that the nice situation here? Is that he should be valuable if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, they're not going to play around with him. They're not going to carry him into the season. So we should have a definitive answer coming into the season.
Also, I mean, how many of these wide receivers do we need to get excited about that they've joined the Patriots to have them do nothing?
Yeah, Bruce Ellington signed earlier in the offseason.
Maurice
I would
Harris,
still
right?
rather have Maurice Harris. I'd rather have Bruce Ellington. Doug Marrone, Jags head coach. This is good news for Fournette owners. Came out and said that he's not going to face any team discipline stemming from his arrest last week. That's good news.
Doug Marrone was like, we've all been there.
No, he literally said that. I mean, Doug Marrone literally said, I've been there.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Doug Marrone. No, we have not all been there.
Yeah. The NFL schedule will be released by the time this podcast is released. What a schedule it was.
Oh, it's a great that primetime matchup. Week 8.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, we're recording this show slightly before the release of the NFL schedule, but that's exciting. You got the NFL schedule release. You got the NFL draft next week. You're going to have rookie shows. You're going to have winners and losers in the draft coming up, and all of it in the fantasy football context for your team, so you're ready to go. That was today's news and notes. We want to get right into the early quarterback rankings, the rest of them, and be sure to switch your Dynasty League over to Sleeper. Now, before I hit this quarterback button, which I am going to keep my eyes open when I hit the drops today. So they should be accurate.
You're a coward.
But we got a little message from Dad, okay?
Yep.
And really, it's not from Dad. It's from Dad and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, okay? Look, this message right now, it's a simple one. Maybe it's common sense. We all know what it's like to be on the road, to be in a hurry, to be listening to a podcast. I mean, a lot of you probably listening right now while you're on the road. But the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration wants to let you know if you're in a hurry, you're running late, and you find yourself at a railway crossing, please wait. Please wait for a train. If the signals are going and the train's not there yet, maybe you feel you feel tempted to sneak. Be sneaky. Here's the thing. This may seem like common sense, but every year it's not for some people. So don't ever take that chance. Trains go faster than you think. They cannot stop. Okay? They cannot stop. Even if the engineer hit the brakes right away, it takes a mile for the train to stop. And by that time, it's too late. So you don't know how fast it's going to be there. You don't know if they can see you, and it can't stop even if they do see you. So the result is a disaster. It happens every year, and we want to keep you on your toes. Make sure you're smart on the road. And if the signals are on, the train is in the way. It's on the way. Remember one thing. Stop. Trains cannot. All right, we're moving on. Quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks.
All right, on Tuesday, top 10. Here's a little recap. Pat Mahomes, Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Carson Wentz, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, and Drew Brees. That was our consensus top 10 rankings at the quarterback position. And we're going to start right here, right now. Big debate. Jameis Winston comes in at number 11. No, not because of Mike and I. Mike and I have him at 13, which honestly, truthfully, I think is probably too high.
Oh, really?
But Jason has him at 7.
I think that's probably too high.
So let's talk about Jameis Winston. Winston last year in 11 games, 244 244 completions on 378 passes, 19 touchdowns, just under 3,000 yards, ran for almost 300 yards. And this story about Jameis Winston is all about the weapons he has in the head coach. Jason, you love him.
I'm excited for the prospect of what he could do. I don't for a second imagine that he doesn't carry risk. I mean, he could very well by the end of the year not be a quarterback, but I believe
not be a quarterback?
Not be the starting quarterback for a franchise, but I believe that he will have a successful year. We've talked about my love for Chris Godwin this year. Mike Evans is in his prime. We've talked up the potential breakout for O.J. Howard. My love for Justin Watson as a sleeper. So, I mean, if all of those things, right, if this wide receiving core is a core that I love, this team is one that still projects to have a bad defense and a great offense. They're in a division full of great offenses. I mean, it would be disingenuous of me to say, well, then this doesn't benefit Jameis Winston. But it's not. It's not narrative-driven, which is what you guys, I think there's this mentality of we like the weapons, and Bruce Arians is coming in, so I just love Jameis. He's going to be great. Jameis has done it. Jameis has already performed as a top guy, just not on a season. And I went and I looked and I broke down why. So let's just look at last year, right? He suspended the first 3 games, comes in relief 2 different times, goes out once. It was this really wacky season for Dirk Cutter-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he's scrambling for his job, trying to do everything he can to find some magic potion. Overall, if you take Jameis Winston plus Ryan Fitzpatrick and you just add their stats together like a normal quarterback that plays 16 games, they would have been the number 2. They would have been behind Patrick Mahomes, ahead of Matt Ryan, just from those stats last year. But if you take out Fitzpatrick and you just look at the games, I went through and looked at the games that Jameis played the whole game. He started, he finished, whatever. There were 8 of them last year. And in those 8 games, he averaged basically about 21 points a game in standard scoring, which was ahead of Deshaun Watson, ahead of Andrew Luck. I mean, those are great numbers, and now he's got a good offense, a coach. And now Fitzpatrick is gone. There's no looking over your shoulder. So I am calling my shot here that I believe Jameis has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback, and I'm not worried about the risk. Like early running backs, I am risk averse. If I'm wrong and the guy gets injured or the guy, doesn't catch the ball in the projection of those early running backs, I can't just turn around and pick one up off of waivers. But I take the risk with the quarterback and say, look, Jameis could have a true breakout here. He's got the potential, And I'm drafting him super late. No, people aren't excited about Jameis. He finishes the quarterback 22 last year. So I'm going to scoop him up with one of my last picks, have the potential that he has a breakout. He's succeeded in the NFL and has a lot of things going for him. That's my argument for Jameis Winston.
A lot of that makes sense, and obviously with him at 7, though, you're projecting that kind of a season out of him.
Correct.
That's why he's in your rankings like that. Last year, the Bucs finished with the season with the most passing yards as a team. In general, Bruce Arians has had a lot of success. What's really funny about Winston to me is that even if they hadn't played together, the comp for me with Jameis Winston would have been Ryan Fitzpatrick historically. And when you look back at after Fitzpatrick had the successful season in New York with the Jets, and he had Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, I see some similarities to him coming in, Winston coming in this year. You've got Godwin, you've got Evans, and the excitement. Now, the problem with Jameis Winston and with Ryan Fitzpatrick is that there's pretty much no quarterback more prone to turnovers and mistakes than Jameis Winston. Last year, he only started, I think, 9 games and had the 5th most interceptions in football. He has historically been a massive interception thrower, fumbler. And when you look at Bruce Arians, and if you want to go to the narrative and you want to explain both sides of it, Carson Palmer had a career resurgence under Bruce Arians. Eventually, in his first season under Bruce Arians, he threw 24 touchdowns, 22 interceptions under Bruce Arians. It is a situation where Arians wants you to drive the ball down the field. He wants you to be cognizant of all these different elements in the offense, and he's got the weapons to do it. I have no doubt that Jameis Winston will have monster games under Bruce Arians. My biggest concern is the turnover-prone nature and you could get every third game could be a classic Ryan Fitzpatrick type of game historically where fire, ice. If we want to stay in the Game of Thrones theme here,
right.
It's a song of ice and fire for Jameis Winston throughout his career. And he hasn't done you made the argument he's done it, but you also then said he's never done it on a season. He has never thrown for 30 touchdowns in his career. There is risk. There is definitely risk, and I get it. He's a value. He's a shot. Everybody's going to pick some guy to take a shot on.
Yeah, I would say the risk just comes down to his draft price. If you're drafting him in the double-digit rounds, I think the risk is absolute minimal. And could there have been a transition for Jameis Winston? Because you're right, he was a turnover machine. But when he got his job back week 11, and he kept it through the end of the season, he threw 13 touchdowns and 4 interceptions across those games. I mean,
it was a good stretch.
He was on pace for 29 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
Right.
Very not Jameis Winston.
It was the best Jameis Winston that we've seen play in the NFL. But during that time, he was averaging 18.5 points per game, which puts him on that for the season. That would have been quarterback 11.
Yeah, that's not that great. Now,
which to the defense of that, the margin between like Matt Ryan and that 18.5 points per game, it's very, very small. So I don't think Jason's crazy for having him.
We've been
at
here
7.
before, though. We had this exact same end of season projection for him last season.
Right, but then he was suspended for 3 games, so everything kind of blew up in the offseason.
It did, and so I'm sticking with what I believed 2 years ago. He's not suspended. He doesn't have a backup that could come in, and if you look at those last games where he played very well, but it was still like quarterback 11, not really smoking happy. One of the things I like about Winston,
got to be smoking happy.
You got to be smoking happy, man.
If you're not smoking happy, you're smoking sad.
One of the things I like about Jameis Winston is that you can figure out when to play him. You know, he shows up for those crazy games where it's like, oh, he's going up against a great offense, and if he's playing a great defense, not so much. Like, for instance, nobody in the world last year played Jameis Winston on the road against Baltimore for that game because Baltimore was on fire. Baltimore held him to 4 fantasy points that game. Like, that was atrocious. If you take that game out where nobody's going to start him anyways, his fantasy points per game are much higher than the quarterback 11.
I think people should realize we're exhausting the Jameis Winston topic in part because, look, this is going to be a shock to the system to have him at 11. I mean, Jason's ranking, our consensus ranking, puts him at 11, so it's worth looking at both sides. Now, number 12 is, good friend of mine. Josh Stallion. I have him at 12. Jason has him at 15. Mike has him at 9.
Yep.
He is, to me, the most interesting fantasy football quarterback there is, because there are so many things to love and so many things to hate about Josh Allen. He goes deep more than anybody in football by a wide margin. He goes deep over 20% of the time. The next closest was like in the 14-15% range. Mahomes isn't even in. He's like at number 4. Josh Allen went deep that many times. But here's the thing. Worst completion percentage in football, but also third lowest pass attempts. So if he had a bad game, it was a bad game. If he had a good game, it was a good game. Not throwing the ball a ton, pressured like crazy, and still put up a monster fantasy season.
Yes.
Mike, you have him the highest,
yes,
and I love him.
Let me paint the picture of Josh Allen. Last year, it's his rookie year, he never surpassed 245 passing yards. He had a 10 to 12 interception or touchdown to interception ratio. That's bad. 4 games under 50% of passing completion, 53% on the year. But we play fantasy football, and once he returned from his injuries, week 12 through 17, he was the number 2 quarterback, putting up nearly 24 points per game. And he was only 0.2 points per game behind Deshaun Watson, who was the number 1 quarterback through that stretch, because in 4 of 6 games, he had 95 or more rushing yards. He had a rushing touchdown in 4 of 6 games. He is Tim Tebow.
I like him a lot more than Jameis Winston for a lot of reasons. Not only just how he finished last year, but I see so much upside in what Josh Allen's going to do. Now, the completion percentage, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I will be super surprised if that improves this year. And
I don't think it.
Now,
it'll improve from 53, but like 54, maybe.
We all have goals. 55 is the goal. But here's why. If you look at the worst receivers in all of football since 2016 in terms of reception percentage, we talked about Michael Thomas, 77% from Drew Brees. The 2 worst in all of football, Zay Jones,
yeah, that makes
who's
sense.
already on the roster, John Brown. Last year, John Brown was bad. John Brown caught like 40-something% of his passes last year. He was that's just the nature of John Brown. He gets targeted 16 yards down the field, and here's John Brown going to a place where he likes to throw the ball deep. I don't think the completion percentage is important for Josh Allen as a fantasy owner at all. Now, Cole Beasley had one of the highest reception percentages in football, so maybe he helps a little bit. Nothing has to change for Josh Allen to still be great.
Yes.
And if it does change with the weapons, he's greater.
So
it's for me. It's Tim Tebow is actually he's far more Cam Newton than he is Tim Tebow to me, because he's very athletic. I expect him to continue to run the way he did towards the second half of the season. It's gross. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that I'm real happy to play a quarterback who completed 53% of his passes. But here we are, because that's the way that fantasy is scored.
Yeah, so I have him down at 15. I'm not nearly as bullish as you guys on Josh Allen. I certainly see the upside. My reason is this. Obviously, Josh Allen, his fantasy production comes down to his legs, not his arm. He's not going to be throwing 350 yards a game and 3 touchdowns. That's not what he does. But he can. I mean, over the last stretch when he was back in the game, was he the quarterback 1 or the quarterback 2? I mean, he was
two, depending on your scoring format.
Sure,
by number 1 point per
points.
game.
Right. I mean, he was unbelievable, and that all was because of his rushing. And so I want to make a point, though. He lost. You need to remember, he lost all of his weapons. Like Kelvin Benjamin was his number 1. They got rid of between injury and trades. He basically was down to.
Who did he lose?
Well, he lost Kelvin Benjamin.
I wouldn't say Kelvin lost him.
Kelvin wasn't a part of that end of season.
That's what he's saying. He ran more because the passing weapons were not there.
If you look at the beginning,
you're saying that because he didn't have passing weapons,
yes,
he ran.
Yes. And now look at what they did this offseason. They went and they got him every passing weapon they could, mediocre or not. They're trying to make sure that he can throw better, right? Look at the beginning of the year, what they wanted to do with Josh Allen. He was on pace, a 16-game pace, for 413 rushing yards. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's really, that's nice. That's going to be top 3 or 4 in the league. But that's what they wanted out of him, to rush. The last part when he was that top-end quarterback, do you know his pace? He was on pace for 1,269 rushing yards because he was more of a running back than he was a quarterback, similar to Lamar Jackson. But I don't believe that's what they want out of him. If they did, I'd be like, oh, he's my quarterback 3.
But what they want,
they were
what
more
they want
competitive
is,
as a team.
What they want is
and
to
he's
win
a rookie
games
to figure out his way.
And that's the way that Josh Allen's going to have to win games. So that will be figured out quickly.
Lamar Jackson at 13. We all have him about the same spot, 11, 12, 11. Lamar Jackson, I was disappointed because from the time he took over, I was expecting to get a great performance from him. We never really did. 15, 20, 16, 18, 16, 16, 26. Look, we know he runs the football. The story is very similar to that of Josh Allen. I mean, they both were the top 2 runners at the position. Number 1 was Lamar Jackson. Number 2 was Josh Allen in terms of yards at the quarterback position. Both guys have to learn how to throw the football to give you sustained great performances on a week-to-week basis. Lamar Jackson's problem was fumbles. Why do we like or why do you like Jackson over Allen, Mike? Or I guess both of you. Or not Mike.
No,
just,
I like
just
Allen
Jason.
more than Jackson.
Yeah, I like Jackson more than Allen because they had designed runs for him on, every third play. My worry with Lamar Jackson is whether he can sustain that and not get injured. But while he is not injured, I know for sure they want him to run the ball far more than I believe Buffalo wants Josh Allen to run the ball. They've redesigned the offense for Lamar Jackson this year. So what you saw last year was a really safe quarterback. Every week you were happy with Lamar Jackson, and that was with him coming in the middle of a rookie year. He was started behind Flacco. Now he's got an offseason, an offense designed around him. I think he for sure takes a step forward. Now
he's been working on his accuracy, Jason.
That's really
huge
good.
Story.
I mean, I was so impressed when I saw a quarterback saying, I want to be even better at quarterback. I was like, wow, that's really good, Lamar. But yeah, I mean, the way that I see it, he was safe. He didn't have any big boom games, but he certainly can. I think he takes a step forward, and I'm more confident in the rushing totals from Lamar Jackson. And I'm not really worried about the injuries because as soon as he's injured, whatever, I'll pivot and I'll go to a different quarterback off of waivers versus –
You're not going to get many busts from Jackson or Allen.
Yeah, I mean,
all.
Whenever you have rushing, we got to fix that. Okay.
See, I'm more – I would say I'm more confident in Lamar's rushing yards total, but I'm more confident in Josh Allen's rushing touchdowns. So that's why I like Allen a little bit more.
It's funny, though, Jay, because Lamar Jackson, on the basis of rushing yards, led them to the playoffs and winning a bunch of games in a row playing that style of football.
Yeah, and that's
it was
why
almost like it was valuable.
Not
for
when
the
they
team.
got in the playoffs, though.
Well, okay, but I'm just saying the weeks that his fantasy points went up for running, that's what he does. Jared Goff.
Jared?
I saw more comments after our first quarterback show about a quote-unquote disrespect of Jared Goff.
It is.
Than I think any other quarterback. Last year, he finished as the QB 7, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He was a QB 2 in total points from weeks 2 through 11 during the wondrous run of the Los Angeles Rams. After the bye, Goff was the QB 26. Now, a lot of factors in play.
A lot.
Injuries to Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp knocked out.
He didn't play for the full games at the end of the season.
So maybe throw out kind of the QB 26 kind of distortion field. Yeah. Had a real bad Super Bowl. You can blame Sean McVay. You can blame play calling, Gurley, same things. We don't know if Cooper Kupp's going to be back for week 1. The latest report says they're hoping, but I could take a nicer report than that. I would prefer to hear a better report than that. So, look, Jared Goff, I've got him at 15.
Yeah, the reason he's in the show is Andy's ranking. Both Jason and I have him as a top 10 quarterback.
Oh, instead of being in the first show?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't like what I saw at the end of the year from Jared Goff, and I'm not super confident in the Gurley resurgence, and without Gurley, I think Goff is real bad. So I think Gurley coming back, being 100%, that will probably adjust my ranking on Jared Goff quite a bit. I need to know that this offense is going to run like it ran in the first 8 games and not the second half of the season, playoffs. So if he's got all his weapons and Gurley's 100%, Jared Goff is going to functionally be effective.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I am, I don't love Cooper Kupp as much because he's coming off the injury. If he wasn't, he'd be my number one Rams wide receiver. But I really like him. I love Robert Woods. I love Cooper Kupp. It's
Brandon
Cooks. It's very similar to my Jameis argument. If all of those players, I believe, are going to have really good seasons, then the quarterback necessarily should perform, and we saw that the first half of last year.
Yeah, he will be an upper half quarterback no matter what. I don't know if there's a situation where a guy is safer to be in that realm. I think kind of the inverse of your Jameis argument. I don't really see Goff being a top 5 guy. So because of that, I would rather take a shot on a Josh Allen.
Sure. I think Goff is safe though. I'm completely bought.
He's very safe.
I'm bought into the offense, even if it's somebody else running the show at the running back position. I think that they will get close. Close maybe is too much, but they will get strong production from the running back to keep the offense moving. I mean, Jared Goff was a stud for fantasy for over half of the season, and you can look at the numbers where I usually am like, the touchdown regression has to come for this quarterback, except the past 2 years, Jared Goff's running back has led the league in rushing touchdowns, and Goff still gets to put up
He
his
did
points.
struggle without Gurley, though. He struggled without the running game working at a high capacity. Like I was going to ask you both
But
the question.
it's hard
if
to –
Gurley was out or limited.
In the playoffs, I will agree, but it's hard to A-B that because C.J. Anderson was awesome to close out the season. Like I think that was actually what the situation was. Like the game against Arizona.
Anderson was awesome as a runner.
Yeah.
But didn't offer the kind of screen game. We talked a lot about what kind of plays Jared Goff got.
Sure, where he
Which
dumps it
was
off the line.
He gets the Robert Woods, takes the underneath the mesh route to the house. Gurley gets what? 3, 4, 5, 6 of those screen pass 60-yarders every year. You're not going to get that with a backup to Gurley.
Well, and certainly
Right.
not with C.J. Anderson. As much as I love him, he's not breaking away for 60.
So I just think it's a fluidity thing. You know how you get out there and you see the team running on all cylinders. They just didn't look that way at the end of the year. Like I said, I'll adjust that ranking if the offense looks like Kupp's healthy, Gurley's healthy, Goff deserves more respect than 15.
Sure, Malcolm Brown is, I think, a little bit more capable in the pass catching game than C.J. Anderson.
And I'm going to go on record and say I think McVay's a good coach.
Yeah,
He's pretty good at offense.
And his beard is manicured.
Oh, it is finally manicured.
Big Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback 3 from a season ago, 34 touchdowns, 16 interceptions.
Yeah,
The quarterback 3,
This one was rough, man.
hardest guy to rank.
Yes.
Mike 15, Jason 16. I have him at 18. I think we all don't want to draft him, and we all didn't want to rank him. Loses Antonio Brown, loses Le'Veon Bell. Not that he had him last year, but still loses him. And is coming off a monster season.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the way that I look at it is this is not just an indictment. A lot of times you see these quarterbacks, okay, I've got him ranked as my quarterback 16. That is not just solely an indictment on Big Ben. It's also an endorsement of 15 other quarterbacks, because I said last episode, and this is really important if you didn't catch last episode, this year more than any year in recent memory, there are more quarterbacks that are great. 21 quarterbacks on my rankings I like. I'm fine with Big Ben, but I just like other people more. And whenever you lose Antonio Brown, I mean, he had 2 of the top 10 wide receivers in, I believe, real life, but definitely in fantasy. When you lose one of those, you take a step back. It's just impossible not to lose Antonio Brown and not take a step backwards.
Big Ben's history is not at the upper echelon of the fantasy finish chart either. If you go to 2013, it was 11, 5, 21, 18, 10, 3, tendency to get injured. I feel like, Jason, you would prefer to have ranked the quarterbacks 1 through 11 and then 10 guys tied at 12 for the top
Sure.
12.
Yeah, exactly.
I still think that top 12 is in the range of outcomes for Big Ben.
I do too. I think top 12 is, but I don't think QB3 is a reasonable
I
ceiling
wouldn't
without
put
Antonio
him
Brown.
there.
Phillip Rivers at 16, Tom Brady at 17. Rivers kind of in the same boat, in terms of where we're ranking him. Only one time last season, one game, did he put up a week-winning great performance. So it was a pretty steady season for Phillip Rivers. 4,300 yards, 32 touchdowns, 12 picks, finished as QB 11. That's steady. Tough week 16. Couple of duds throughout the season, but pretty steady. Is there, high touchdown rate last year? This team is more Melvin Gordon's than it is Phillip Rivers at this point.
Yeah, but even still, it's like Jared Goff. I think that despite Melvin Gordon being there, getting a ton of rushing touchdowns, Melvin Gordon is a huge asset in the passing game. Phillip Rivers he's similar like Big Ben where it's hard to rank because it's just the upside is what? But he's going to be super solid. I mean, this guy, he is an Activia. He is a yogurt that is going to keep you regular.
That's fair.
If you look at his career finish year after year after year, he's almost always a back-end quarterback one. Literally almost always. You've got enough data to know where he's going to finish. So will he finish above my ranking of him at 17?
Yes.
Yeah, he will. He'll finish at quarterback 12.
But that doesn't mean you want to draft him.
That doesn't mean I want to draft him because his upside, he's literally only finished at the top 5 at the position once, and it was in 2010. That's a long time ago now. So I don't think he's got room to go up. He's just going to be steady, and I want to take my shot late in the draft at a guy I think has the potential to be top 5.
They're a good defense. And lowest total pass attempts in 10 years for Phillip Rivers. So he remained steady, regular, as Mike would say.
Yes.
Because of a 6.3% touchdown rate, the second highest of his career.
And his completion percentage. I mean, he threw the ball 508 times, and you can look 2 years ago, he threw the ball 578 times, yet he only had 2 fewer completions this year.
So if you want some context for, the NFL schedule's coming out, and we're getting into the range of, you might draft a player to stream them for a few weeks.
Right.
That's where we're at the quarterback position. Phillip Rivers could be your last pick in the draft if he has a great early season schedule, and he could be the guy you start with or platoon.
And it seems like he always starts off the season hot and tails off near the end.
Yeah.
I felt that last year.
Yeah. It's like this show. Tuberculosis over here.
Got me.
I finally got Jason. Jason's been fighting. Jason's been
I told you to stay off the Oregon Trail, man.
I know.
is it tuberculosis, Brooks? Have we got him tested?
Or is it the black lung?
Or is that typhoid?
Or is that the same thing?
I don't know. But I think I got the black lung paw.
Yeah. Well, the plant man can help. Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Brady. Do I have a plant man drop?
You got to play him in.
I honestly don't see it, Mike. I really wish I did.
Brooks.
Oh, crap. You got to get organic. You got to get that $35 a meal organic plan, Jason, and your lungs would feel better.
Hey, don't talk to me. You got to talk to Mike here, Mr. ranking him at quarterback 21.
Yeah, that's right.
That's fine.
Get out of my life, fantasy Tom Brady.
That's his way of saying I'm done with Tom Brady as a fantasy starting quarterback.
You're darn right.
No more Gronk. No more unfair advantage. No more Gronk cheat code.
No, I agree. I've got him at 18.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not that exciting in New England. It's effective, not exciting.
He threw for 1 touchdown or fewer in half of his games. That is destruction to your life.
Get Brady'd.
Yes.
If the forthcoming, rise of Sony Michel that I think all three, definitely Andy, sees coming as, relying on him, especially around the goal line, happens, that's only going to continue to hurt the touchdown upside of Tom Brady.
The quarterback 25 from weeks 8 through 13.
Perfect.
Will he be on any of your teams? No. Not any of ours. Mitchell Trubisky at 18.
This one surprises me, and I've thrown the most shade on Mitchell, obviously, famously.
Yeah, what did he put up, 6 touchdowns against you?
Yes, against me, he put up 6 touchdowns, and that was against me personally, not in fantasy, just like it was me on the field. Yes. But I've got him at 14. You guys have him at 19 and 20. Here's an example. We just literally talked about a 3-pack of elder statesmen that we know what we're getting in Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady. The upside is not really there, but they're consistent versus a guy like Mitchell Trubisky who
There's upside.
the upside is there, right? Matt Nagy going into year 2 of the system.
Yes.
You've got a guy that, I mean, look, last year he finished as quarterback 15, but in 14 games on a per-game basis, he was the quarterback 12. I think Mitchell, as a football player, forget fantasy, in real life, I think Mitchell Trubisky is better this year than he was last year. Another year in the system, another year in the NFL. Remember, he only had 1 year as a starter in college. So, the evolution, I would expect him to take a slight step forward. And if he does a slight step forward from the quarterback 12 on a per-game basis, that's someone I'm interested in if he falls late in drafts.
He had 4 great games, so that'd be 25 or more fantasy points, and they kind of distort that into season number.
That is the issue.
Week 4, 43 fantasy points. I think that's when he famously destroyed your soul.
Yes.
Week 7, 31. Week 10, 36. So the offense is kind of built to allow for that to happen. So you're going to have that from Mitchell. So he's a good streaming candidate, and there is upside to him.
Yeah, but I'm leaving him in the streaming category. Huge games, 4 massive games, 2 good games, 8 busts. 8 times you played him, and he crushed you. 8 times. And what was weird was when he started the season and he was having these huge games, his first 7 games he averaged 42 rushing yards a game. That's fantastic. That's the type of baseline you want from your running quarterback. The final 7 games he was averaging 18 yards a game on the ground. I mean, that's not what you want from Mitchell Trubisky to put up these huge games. I am
when we talk
not
about,
going to draft
when we talk about
Trubisky anywhere.
Mahomes, Goff, the success of the frequency at which they targeted the running back out of the backfield. Is this addition by subtraction with Jordan Howard, where now you have a capable Tariq Cohen, Mike Davis combination that can give some cheap points to Mitchell Trubisky?
That's exactly what I was
point.
going to bring up. Losing Jordan Howard helps Mitchell Trubisky's fantasy value because the dump-offs will be there. They tried to get Jordan Howard involved. You look at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
They go into the year, and they're targeting Howard. But he's not a good pass catcher, and there's a big difference between a guy who can catch a ball in stride, keep running, get yards after the little dump-off catch, and a guy who has to kind of like pause, seize the day, grab the ball, get tackled.
Does by extension that hurt Carson Wentz?
Ooh.
I don't think it does because if you look at,
I love Carson Wentz.
No, but the thing is they've always I feel like they've used a guy like that. They've had LeGarrette Blount there. They didn't really target Jay Ajayi. So I think they know.
Yeah, Mike.
I think that it's very similar situation for Wentz as he's been used to.
Dak Prescott comes in at number 19 on our consensus rankings. I have him at 17, Jason and Mike at 19. Last year he finished at 10.
Yeah, 19.
It feels
too
like
low.
disrespect.
It is. It's too low.
And he's definitely played much better once Amari Cooper arrived. In fact, he was a top 8 quarterback in 5 of the 8 starts with Amari Cooper, a 71% completion rate from week 9 on. They're talking extension with both Amari and Dak, trying to make this a pairing for quite some time. So do you believe in the second half Dak? I guess not.
Yeah.
Or is it just liking? I feel like it's liking other guys more.
It is, but honestly,
but he probably belongs higher.
It's way too low. I believe it's somewhere in the middle. The second half Dak, quarterback 6 is rookie year, quarterback 11, quarterback 10. I mean, the dude is
he's
played
top
3
12
years.
guy.
He's been a top 12 guy for 3 years because he runs, he gets rushing touchdowns, and now he has a legitimate number 1 wide receiver.
Well, Mike, look on this
I gotta
show. We
adjust.
just
I gotta adjust.
talked about Phillip Rivers. We can adjust on the fly here. Part of this show is working through this. Phillip Rivers, we both have Phillip Rivers ahead of Dak Prescott. And
Okay, there we go. We got him up at least one spot. Dak is now
so
QB 18.
You would rather have Dak than Phillip Rivers.
Yes.
How about Big Ben?
So would I. Yeah, that I don't know about that. I don't know.
I mean, the reality
That's a
is
good question.
I do think because of Dak's rushing touchdowns, the way they use them
6
down
again,
around the
6 last year.
Yeah, I mean, he's those plays are called, and there's nothing the defense can do other than sell out for Zeke. And so Dak will get those rushing touchdowns. I think he has a good year, and he's probably one of the most universally undervalued guys. He is surprisingly young to be as unsexy a pick. Nobody wants him.
This is the Burns, man. This is the fantasy Burns of being super hyped and in for Dak last year, and then he came out in the first half of the season was pretty bad for your fantasy team.
It's not a coincidence that he had a 71% completion percentage, and Cole Beasley nearly led the league in completion percentage at the position, reception percentage. So you have to believe that Randall Cobb can do enough of a Cole Beasley impersonation to keep those numbers up and keep the chains moving.
I definitely think this is Dak's best receiving core he's ever had. I mean, because when he had Dez,
Michael Gallup developing
at the end, right? Michael Gallup developing. He's also got Jason Witten back, and I don't expect Jason Witten to be good for fantasy himself. But when it comes to
good for Dak,
keeping on the field,
Jeff Swaim,
yeah, exactly, converting another third down, that's good for Dak. I think he's got the best core he's had.
All right, Captain Kirk comes in at number 20. He's got two of the best receivers in all of football. Got a pass-catching running back.
I mean, where was he? Wasn't he drafted as like a top 5 guy last year or close to it?
No, he wasn't. Not a top 5 guy.
It was in the top 10.
He was in the top 10
no
for
doubt.
sure.
7 maybe.
And I mean, rightly so. He had been since 2015. He'd been at least the quarterback 8 or better. And to start the year, I mean,
it looked good.
It did. It looked very good, especially through week 8, and then things kind of fell apart. He was a little bit inconsistent. I had Cousins in a lot of places, which Jason, to your point, would say that I got him very late.
Sure,
got a lot of Cousins.
I would not have drafted Cousins if I had to spend an early pick on him. It was late. Oh, great, Kirk Cousins is still here, and it was tough because he'd reel you in with the potential of those 30-point games, mid-20-point games, and then he'd rattle off 3 kind of stinkers in a row, but you knew at any moment with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen that he could give you a top 3 performance of the week.
And, a lot's been made that Dalvin Cook, they want to run the ball, but Dalvin Cook's a very good receiving back.
Yes, he is.
So we talk about that with Goff and others. Dalvin Cook should be able to, if he's healthy and out there catching balls, that goes to Kirk Cousins too.
It's just so, I guess it's peculiar to me because if you pay Kirk Cousins what they paid him and you turn him into at least fantasy-wise, Case Keenum, it's just a lot of money spent in that passing game. I do think that they'll throw more and Thielen and Diggs, more than we think, and Thielen and Diggs affords you great games. He will probably be a streaming candidate for your opponent that you think you're happy you're playing, and every once in a while you're really disappointed, the way that Phillip Rivers was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, when I said earlier that I've got 21 quarterbacks that I'm happy to leave the draft with, right now I believe he's my 21st quarterback, and so I'm happy. If I leave and my last round pick I grab Kirk Cousins,
it's so crazy.
I'm not gonna go, oh man, now I've got a giant hole at quarterback. He's fine.
He had a 70% completion rate. He threw for 4,300 yards and 30 touchdowns. And
That's a great year.
And we are disparaging the man.
Well, we have standards, Mike. We have very high standards. Very, very high.
You better be
very high.
I demand 5K.
Tell you what.
I demand 35 touchdowns.
Why don't you just run for 600 yards? Better yet, 400 yards. I'll be happy with that.
It would be the same as throwing for 4,000 yards.
That's right. All right, hey, it's been a while. Let's get into the mailbag.
Mailbag.
Mailbag! Woo! Thanks. All right, go to the website.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
You got to spice it up.
Yep. Go to the website. Click the Submit a Question button or dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. We love helping the Foot Clan get right in the offseason. Alex in Wilmington, North Carolina. Now, that's to get right, not regular, Mike. This is not another...
Look, there's nothing
not
wrong.
Yogurt related.
There is nothing wrong with being regular. In fact, it's healthy.
It is. You're a total type of guy.
No.
Hey, guys, love the show, says Alex. I am trying to decide between keeping Pat Mahomes for a 9th rounder or Travis Kelce for a 5th rounder.
Ooh,
I feel like
tough.
Mahomes is a no-brainer for such a late pick, but Kelce's in his own tier. It's a great value on both players.
Yeah, and look, we're I'm
We should say the answer at the same time.
I'm anti Mahomes in general, but that's because of the price you're paying for him. Both of these guys are really in their own tier, or at least they're top of their position. So to me, I know my answer.
I know my answer.
And so we want to say it at the same time?
1, 2, 3. Mahomes.
Kelsey. So Mike and I are both Kelsey. You're Mahomes. My reason is just replaceability.
That's mine too.
If you don't get Mahomes, I mean, we just went through a bunch of quarterbacks that I'd be happy with. Are they Mahomes? No. But late, replace Kelsey with a tight end that you're not going to be happy with at all. That you're just going to
Is it Zach Ertz?
Couldn't it afford you the opportunity to take Kelsey at his premium draft cost and still get a great value on the situation? You want to take Kelsey in the second round?
But here's the thing then. I mean,
you got Kelsey, Mahomes stack in exchange for a second and a ninth?
No, that's a legit strat.
Just a thought.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think you're going to go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, both are enormous values.
It's just the replaceability. There's only one guy who's close to Kelsey's tier.
All right, Corbin in Colorado. I was offered Mike Evans.
Corbin Dallas?
It is Corbin Dallas, yes, from Fifth Element. Thank you.
Multi-pass.
I was offered Mike Evans. Now you're bringing up Mia Jovovich. And let me just say,
Mike Evans.
as a Mike Evans, as a Mia Jovovich fan in the past,
Oh no! Is this a scathing review?
I just wasn't a fan of the new Hellboy. That's all I'm saying. The old ones, the Del Toro Hellboys.
Oh, those are so good.
They got me so jacked up for this, and then I saw Mia was in it. She still looks fairly young.
I think
she kicks massive butt.
I think
man.
that's all it was.
Oh, and the thing is maybe she's just not. Can she not act? Am I right? Can she not act?
Multi-pass.
Because multi-pass is not a long script. Big bada boom.
I mean, I think your love for the old ones and your love for Mia Jovovich is that's what made you want to see it. You posted on our channel like, "Hey, I'm gonna get tickets for this movie on Saturday."
I just love the
Who's
first.
coming with me? And you were alone.
I was
like,
not alone.
No thanks. I've seen the
I
trailer.
wasted at least 2 other people's money going to that movie. But yeah, anyway, not the best actress in that film.
Yeah.
Moving on, that came out of Corbin in Colorado. Great.
Because his name's Corbin Dallas.
Yeah, he did this to himself.
If he was in Dallas, can you imagine?
Corbin, my man.
I was offered Mike Evans, and I would give up George Kittle. Would you do that trade in a deep dynasty league?
Yes.
Yeah.
And for clarity,
Oh no.
it's 3 running back, 5 wide, 2 tight end, 2 flex. Because it's 5 wide receiver, yes.
Yeah, I saw the 2 tight
I'm
end.
with Mike as well.
No, I saw the 2 tight end before I saw the 5 wide
Right.
receiver. Yeah. In a startup draft, all you have to do in these things is think, which one would you draft first? You know.
By the way, sleeper alert, Adam Gase, his first message to the Jets, he came there to dethrone the Patriots. So there you go.
Wasn't he already in the division with the Patriots last year?
Now that's funny. He came there to do what he came there to do before.
What was your
Not-
mission last year?
Not just last year.
Yes, the last several years.
What did he come to Miami to do? Come on, butthead. Or wait, not butthead.
Beehole.
I'll go with butthead. He's
fine.
Goes from beehole to butthead. Come on, man. Those words don't ring true. Brad in Minnesota. Should I trade Travis Kelce for David Njoku in the 105 in a rookie draft? No.
No.
What about David Njoku in the 101 for Travis Kelce?
I'm just
Probably a no.
who's the 101?
Yeah, talk
you
to me
told me-
after the NFL draft.
I don't even know if I can start David Njoku this year. If I knew that for sure,
Good point.
if I knew that for sure, the trade is more interesting. But you could be trading Travis Kelce for no tight end. Unfortunately. Njoku has all the talent, but we know how agnostic Baker is with the targets, and now Odell's there. Yeah. All right, last one, Anthony in Pennsylvania. When will the UDK app come out?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
It should go live when the Ultimate
Dallas.
Draft Kit goes live on June 1st.
Yeah. There's a companion app. It's free. It's coming along with the UDK this year. It's a tag-along. But it's awesome.
It's not a cookie.
It's awesome.
Not a cookie. It's an app.
Pristine deal of the day.
We've said this. You got to take the good jokes with the bad jokes with Mike.
That was a great one.
And there's
I
more
thought
good-
that was pretty delicious.
There's more,
Thank you.
A delicious joke?
Well, I mean,
I can't argue with that.
is great.
All right. Pristine deal of the day. DeAndre Hopkins signed Houston Texans jersey yesterday. Sold for
$279.
Nope.
$179.
No.
$79?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
$79. PristineAuction.com, hundreds of daily auctions, sports memorabilia that goes well beyond football, although they have hundreds of daily football auctions that you can check out. PristineAuction.com. Let them know the fantasy footballers sent you.
I want to start seeing we should talk to Pristine about this. I want to start seeing like DeAndre Hopkins signed Mike Evans jersey. You know what I mean? Like
They sign each other's jerseys?
no, just one direction.
And you were making fun of my tag-along
I
joke.
wonder if there's any, like, Fifth Element gear over there.
Big bada boom. See you Thursday.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.